Welcome Anne to my YouTube channel.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be on your show, Julie. Thank you for having me.
So Anne is joining us from Turkey and she is best-selling author of some books. During the chat she's going to talk about the book she's written. So Anne, thank you so much for joining me here today. So do you want to talk about your books?
Yeah, sure. So I have a series of books under a name called Sand and Sea, which in Turkish is called Kum ve Deniz, which is Sand and Sea in English.
Okay.
And it is a three book series. The first book is Footprints in the Sand, which is called Kumdaki Ayak Izleri in Turkish. And the second book is Child of Two Worlds, which is İki Dünyada Çocuk, Child of Two Worlds in Turkish. And the third book that I'm writing right now is called Kun Fayaku, which is Kun Fayaku in Arabic and Kun Fayaku in Turkish as well. So basically, my first book, which is Footprints in the Sand, is a bestseller. And I write on woman-oriented, premise. My books are driven by the strength of women, the depth of women, because the book also has a lot to do with nature. And we call it Mother Nature, know. So the main characters from the fictional side is the sand and the sea, which is the Kum and the Deniz. The Deniz is obviously the woman, the woman figure. And the Kum is the male representation. And, if you study old Semitic religions, it says that man was made from, clay and sand, and thou art dust, and to dust you shall return. And so you will find that amongst the Semitic religions as well. So I've taken all those analogies and those connecting points and used it to use nature and how nature talks to people. And so it's about ruashk, or as we would say, soulmates, and the journey of the woman to find her soulmate. And usually it is that the knight in shining armor gets onto his horse and finds the girl. But my story is about the girl going to find her soulmate, and then how her journey progresses, and how nature helps her, and how a true love is supposed to be larger than just your individual needs. True love brings out humanity in you, empathy in you, compassion in you. And so I use two countries because I'm a travel writer, India and Turkey. And there's a lot of connecting points between India and Turkey. For example, there are more than 5,000 Hindi words in the Turkish dialect. Turkey ruled India in the 14th century in northern India, and you have a very famous queen called Razia Sultan. So she was Turkish, and so the whole Mamluk dynasty and the whole connection. The food and the cuisine is also pretty much similar. You will find ayran and chas the same. They call chai as we call in India. So there's so many similarities, and so therefore I, as a travel writer, wanted to give my audience a complete experience for non-Indians to experience India through Mumbai and Delhi, and for Indians and other people who've never visited Turkey to experience all the different cities, because that's where the protagonist, who's the female, travels.
Unfortunately, I've not read your book, but maybe I'll go get a copy for myself. Very interesting concept. And what we would like to know about is that, as you suggested about chai and chash and all that, any other cultural similarities you want to talk about between India and Turkey? It would be very interesting for the audiences.
Yes, so that's the whole beauty of this book and why it's become a bestseller, because I've given a glossary so people can experience the language, one. Two, I've given the history of the different cities, like Istanbul was Constantinople in the past, and how it has exchanged hands to becoming Istanbul. And then you have a lot of the prophets like Prophet Abraham, etc., who lived in Turkey, in Urfa. So you can actually go where Sarah and Abraham got married in a place called Haran. So it's got a lot of archaeological, authentic findings, or in Turkey. And half of the world has tried to rule Turkey, and so you have the Romans who were here. You have the Sumerian culture, which is also now found in Göbekli Tepe, in terms of it being an archaeological find and archaeological heritage location right now. And then you also have certain untapped beaches like Dalyan, where you have the logger turtles, which existed more than 5 million years ago, and you still see them in summer there. So, it's a preserved beach by UNESCO, so you cannot, litter it or build anything around it. And the difference between Turkey and India is that we also have things like the Taj Mahal, etc. But it's so badly used where people are etching their names into the wall, not understanding it's a heritage property and, something to be proud of rather than ruining. In Turkey, that is not allowed. So, you are very heavily fined if you're caught. And people actually respect these old archaeological areas and locations that they themselves don't spoil it, So my thing was that I wanted my audience to have a holistic experience. So obviously cuisine, obviously the culture, obviously, the mannerism of the people. Like in Turkish, people are extremely polite. Everything they will say, lütfen, which is please, or they'll say teşekkürler, at least thank you, which is at least 5 times to you. So there is a lot of mannerism that is there. Like in India, where you bow down and say namaste to people, they, say hoş geldiniz, welcome to my house. So, the similarity of warmth, the similarity of family oriented. Turkish people are very family oriented. So just say chacha, chachi, dada, dadi, nana, nani. They also have a similar thing where the father's mothers call something else and the mother's mothers call something else, So that is also same, And then the weddings, like how we have in India, which goes on for 4 or 5 days. You have a whole band baja barats that comes to the girl's house, where the whole neighborhood is alerted with banging of drums to ask for a hand. So, there's also this particular Turkish dance that the men do, just like how we have when we rob the shoes of the groom, There's a lot of those similarities of small functions and, togetherness of family. So, that's what connects Indians and Turkish. And like in India, if you ask for a road direction and you'll have 5 people who will want to give it to you, it's same in Turkey. They're so friendly. They're just waiting for someone to ask them something, and all people will jump in to help you.
Yeah.
And they
you don't get a look. Yeah.
Yes. So you never feel unsafe here. As a woman, the government takes a lot of precautions. There is like a Kadan line in case, you get lost, or if you have issues as a woman, I'm talking about for people who have married Turkish people. And there's also a Yabancı line, which is for foreigners, in case you get lost or whatever, people help you around. But I would recommend having Yandex or Google, because a lot of proportion of people don't speak English. So you have to, like how we have our grocers and you speak to him in English, he'll answer. That does not happen here in Turkey.
Okay.
You have to translate it and then they understand, So the first language of education here is Turkish, and then the second is French, Spanish, English, and so on.
Okay. So since we are talking about a bestseller book and you've written a few, but let's talk about the one you're writing right now and just a glimpses of it to our viewers.
Sure. So I'm going to show you the first one, which is the bestseller. Okay. This is called Sand and Sea, Footprints in the Sand. So this starts with the woman's journey. The first book is the woman's journey to finding the Turkish man who's her soulmate. And we come from an old Indian culture, which is all believes in reincarnation and, soul journeys and all of that. So that's in book 1, where she has some karmic debt to settle with this man. And so she has to meet him. Okay. And she happens to find him, and then, the story progresses. The second book is about the man's side of the story, and that special child, which comes from the whole Syrian refugee history that Turkey has. They took in more than 5 million refugees, which on a global level is one of the greatest initiatives of humanity to try and resettle people and try and give them a home and a family and protection in this country. So they obviously took these people in. They are kept in various camps and also then given livelihood in terms of jobs, etc., etc. And then they can continue to live here, or when they can go back to Syria when they are safe, it's up to them. So there's a girl child that I've shown through this whole Syrian war and being a refugee and how difficult life is as a refugee, to lose your identity, your family, your people who you loved, your memories that you had, move into a place as an unwanted person. So the second book is about that girl child and how she gets adopted. Again, female oriented, so girl child adoption. And the third book is where the two fictional characters, which is the sand and the sea, these are fictional characters, they come to life in book 2 and in book 3, which talks about Fujur and Taqwa. Now, Fujur is evil and Taqwa is good. So this is a constant battle that we have within ourselves, outside of us in the world, and how the good or the light wins. So that's the journey of, I'm just giving you a hint because I don't want to tell too much, otherwise people will not buy the book. So it will take it to culmination there. So it shows that how nature corrects us. If we look at tsunamis, or we look at drought, or we look at floods, or we look at volcanoes, it's a way of nature telling mankind that you're doing something wrong. And you need to correct your ways, because we have come in a time where there's global warming happening, there are forest fires happening, there is all of this happening because mankind is so obsessed with himself that we keep exploiting nature. And nature is mother to all without making a distinction of race or color or nationality. And she knows how to correct. So therefore, a mother knows how to correct, if a mother shapes, a woman, it comes back to woman. So it's always, nature is the feminine side, the correcting mother, sometimes harsh, sometimes gentle. The rain is gentle, but sometimes the drought is to teach you to value the water, to value nature. And nature will take her revenge or avenge herself if you violate her. So that's what the third book is highlight on.
Fantastic. I think it's a very interesting journey. And thank you so much for giving me this interview. It was lovely chatting about your books. And if you're viewing my channel for the first time, we have amazing, actually inspiring women like Anne on this platform on a regular basis. So if you're not subscribed to my channel, do subscribe. Thank you so much, Anne.
They should subscribe to your channel, yes, because you are an extremely inspiring woman. And I'm really happy to be on your show. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Anne.